Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny for what could more aptly fit your needs. Marcus Aurelius, life is a river, endlessly flowing. People and moments drift in and out like currents that shape us. But what happens when we try to hold on to what has already been swept away? The weight of clinging to what is no longer ours often becomes unbearable. Yet we persist, driven by fear, by hope, by the illusion of control. But what if I told you that letting go isn't about weakness or loss, but about reclaiming your inner strength? What if the true power lies not in holding on, but in learning to release, to flow, to embrace the impermanence of all things? Welcome to Stoic Mind. Today, we're going on a journey into the art of letting go. But this isn't just about letting go of people or situations. It's about letting go of the emotional chains that bind you to a past that no longer exists. In this video, we'll explore timeless Stoic principles that will help you release what you've been clinging to so that you can walk the path of inner freedom, resilience, and mental fortitude. Stay with me till the end, because as we dive into these ancient teachings, you'll find the keys to unlocking a deeper understanding of yourself. You'll learn how to deal with the complexities of human attachment, how to navigate situations that seem impossible to escape, and ultimately, how to achieve the kind of peace that Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca lived by. So, are you ready to let go of what's weighing you down? Are you ready to master the art of release? Let's begin. 1. The illusion of control. One of the greatest struggles in life is the belief that we can control everything. We think if we try hard enough, we can manipulate situations, shape outcomes, or even change people. But the Stoics remind us of a fundamental truth. What's outside of our control is none of our concern. This includes the thoughts, actions, and behaviors of others. The only thing within our control is how we respond. Illustration: think of a sinking ship. You're desperately trying to plug the holes to steer the vessel back to safety, but no matter how hard you try, the water keeps pouring in. This is the illusion of control, believing that with enough effort, you can prevent what's inevitable. Now imagine letting go, accepting the ship's fate, and instead focusing on saving yourself, making peace with the journey, and moving on. That's the Stoic way. When it comes to people, many of us cling to relationships that are no longer healthy. We convince ourselves that if we just say the right thing or do the right thing, the other person will change. But the reality is, you can't control someone else's growth or journey, and holding on to that belief will only cause you pain. Extended strategy. Every morning, ask yourself, what is within my control today and what is not? Focus on what you can influence, your thoughts, your reactions, your decisions, and let go of the rest. Remind yourself, as Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. 2. The poison of attachment. Attachment is often the reason we struggle to let go. Whether it's a person, a memory, or a vision of the future, attachment binds us. It's natural to feel connected to the people and things we love, but Stoicism teaches us that excessive attachment is dangerous. It causes suffering because everything in life is temporary. Illustration: picture holding on to a piece of rope tied to a runaway horse. The more you cling to it, the more pain it causes you. Your hands burn, your muscles strain, but you refuse to let go because you believe that holding on will somehow stop the horse. But the truth is, the horse will continue to run, whether you let go or not. And the longer you hold on, the more damage you cause to yourself. In relationships, attachment can feel like a trap. We cling to people who have moved on, or we stay in toxic situations because we fear the emptiness of letting go. But letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you're no longer willing to sacrifice your inner peace for something or someone outside of your control. Extended strategy. To free yourself from attachment, practice negative visualization, a Stoic exercise where you imagine losing the things or people you hold dear. This isn't meant to depress you, but to remind you of their impermanence. By doing so, you'll learn to appreciate what you have without becoming overly attached to it. 3. The burden of resentment. Resentment is a heavy weight to carry, yet we often hold on to it because we believe it somehow punishes the person who wronged us. But as Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. Resentment doesn't hurt the other person, it hurts you. Illustration. Imagine dragging a chain behind you everywhere you go. This chain is heavy, slowing you down, preventing you from moving forward with ease. Resentment is that chain. It keeps you anchored to the past, to a person or event that no longer has power over your life, unless you let it. Holding on to anger, bitterness, or the desire for revenge only serves to poison your own heart. Forgiving doesn't mean you approve of the wrong done to you. It means you refuse to let it control your emotions and your life any longer. Extended strategy. To let go of resentment, practice mindful detachment. Whenever you feel anger or resentment rising within you, pause and observe the emotion. Acknowledge it without judgment, and remind yourself that these feelings are temporary and not worth holding on to. 4. The fear of being alone. One of the reasons we cling to people or situations is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of the unknown, fear of not being enough. But Stoicism teaches us that solitude isn't something to fear. In fact, it's an opportunity to grow, to strengthen your inner world. Illustration. Think of a tree standing alone in an open field. At first, it may seem vulnerable, exposed to the elements, but over time, its roots grow deep, anchoring it firmly in the ground. It doesn't rely on other trees to stand tall. In the same way, we must learn to stand strong in our solitude, finding strength within ourselves rather than in the company of others. Extended strategy. When you find yourself fearing solitude, engage in self-reflection and journaling. Use this time alone to explore your thoughts, your values, and your personal growth. The more comfortable you become with yourself, the less you will fear being alone. 5. The deception of hope. Hope can be a beautiful thing, but misplaced hope can be dangerous. We often hold on to toxic relationships or situations because we hope that things will change, that the other person will suddenly become who we need them to be. But this kind of hope keeps us trapped in a cycle of disappointment. Illustration. Hope is like waiting at a train station for a train that will never arrive. Every day you wait, hoping that today will be the day. But the train never comes, and you waste your time and energy waiting for something that isn't meant for you. To let go, we must recognize when our hope is misplaced. As Marcus Aurelius said, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Extended strategy. When you find yourself clinging to hope, ask yourself, is this hope based on reality, or is it a way for me to avoid letting go? Focus on what is, not what you wish it to be, and move forward accordingly. 6. The power of acceptance. Acceptance is at the heart of Stoicism. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting the reality of a situation and choosing to move forward. When we resist reality, we create suffering. But when we accept what is, we free ourselves from the pain of wishing things were different. Illustration. Imagine fighting against the current of a river. No matter how hard you swim, the current pushes you back. But when you stop resisting and let the river carry you, you find peace in the flow. Life is like that river. When we accept the flow of life, we find peace. Extended strategy. To practice acceptance, use daily affirmations. Remind yourself, I accept what I cannot change, and I focus on what I can. This simple practice will help you build resilience and find peace in the face of life's challenges. 7. The impermanence of all things. Everything in life is temporary. People, situations, emotions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that time is like a river made up of events which happen, and its current is strong. When we cling to what is temporary, we fight against the natural flow of life. Illustration. Picture a flower in bloom. It's beautiful, vibrant, full of life. But no matter how much you love the flower, it will eventually wither and die. You can't stop its natural cycle. In the same way, we must learn to see people and situations as temporary, moments in time that come and go. Letting go isn't about forgetting or devaluing what once was. It's about accepting that all things have their time and place, and knowing when it's time to release them. Extended strategy. To embrace impermanence Meditate on the transience of life. Reflect on the fact that nothing lasts forever and that this is a natural part of existence. This will help you cultivate the mindset needed to let go with grace. 8. Letting go of unrealistic expectations. Often, we hold on to people and situations because of the expectations we've built around them. These expectations shape our reality and dictate our sense of happiness. But what happens when reality doesn't meet those expectations? We suffer. According to the Stoics, expectations are a breeding ground for disappointment because they are based on things outside our control. Illustration: imagine planting a tree and expecting it to bear fruit overnight. Each day you visit and the tree remains barren. The disappointment festers, even though it was never within your control to force the tree to grow at your desired speed. Holding on to unrealistic expectations of others is much the same. We expect people to behave a certain way, to change, or to meet the standards we have set. But like the tree, they grow in their own time. Extended strategy. A true Stoic cultivates acceptance. Release yourself from expectations by practicing Amor, Fati, a concept introduced by the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, meaning love of fate. Instead of attaching your happiness to an outcome, embrace whatever comes your way as part of the larger flow of life. When you let go of rigid expectations, you give yourself the freedom to experience joy in the present moment, rather than longing for a future that may never unfold as you envisioned. 9. The weight of resentment. Resentment, in its simplest form, is emotional baggage we carry when we've been wronged or hurt. It keeps us tethered to past grievances, preventing us from moving forward. The Stoics teach that resentment is futile, as it serves no purpose other than to chain us to negativity. Illustration: consider a heavy stone you carry in a backpack. Each time you recall a grievance or an injustice done to you, the stone grows heavier. Yet it's you who suffers from the weight, not the person who wronged you. Over time, this burden of resentment weighs you down until you find yourself immobilized, trapped by your own inability to forgive and move on. Extended strategy. To release the chains of resentment, practice forgiveness. This doesn't mean excusing the actions of others, but rather choosing to no longer let their actions dictate your peace. The Stoic philosopher Seneca advises, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." By choosing not to hold on to resentment, you free yourself from the emotional baggage that prevents you from walking the path of peace. 10. Facing the fear of being alone. For many, letting go is difficult because of a deep-seated fear of solitude. We cling to relationships, no matter how toxic or unfulfilling, because we believe that being alone is worse. But Stoicism teaches that solitude is not something to fear. Rather, it is a space for reflection and growth. Illustration: imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, terrified to jump because you fear the unknown. Behind you, a crumbling path leads to nowhere, yet you cling to it out of fear. Solitude, much like that leap, is scary because it forces us to confront ourselves. But it is only when we take that step into the unknown that we discover our true strength. Extended strategy. To conquer the fear of being alone, practice self-sufficiency. Spend time in solitude, not as a punishment, but as a way to grow closer to yourself. Reflect on the words of Epictetus, "He who is alone is not lonely, for solitude does not equal loneliness." Use solitude as a period to build resilience and deepen your understanding of your own thoughts and emotions. 11. Letting go of the need for approval. Many of us hold on to people and situations because we seek validation. We want to be liked, appreciated, or acknowledged. But the Stoics remind us that external validation is fleeting and that true contentment comes from within. Illustration: picture yourself sculpting a statue, tirelessly shaping and perfecting it, but instead of admiring your work, you wait for others to applaud. The problem with seeking approval is that it is unreliable. Others may not see the value in what you've created, and in the end, their approval does nothing to change its worth. Extended strategy. To break free from the need for approval, practice self-affirmation. Remind yourself that you do not need the validation of others to know your own value. As Marcus Aurelius advises, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Learn to appreciate your own efforts without seeking external praise, and you'll find greater inner peace. 12. The futility of regret. Regret is the mind's way of clinging to the past. We look back on our decisions and wish we had acted differently, or we obsess over missed opportunities. But the Stoics teach that regret is useless, as the past is beyond our control. What matters is the present, the only moment in which we have power. Illustration: imagine you're walking a path, but your head is turned backward, fixated on the road you've already traveled. With each step, you trip and stumble because you cannot see where you're going. This is the essence of regret. It keeps us looking backward, preventing us from moving forward with clarity. Extended strategy. To release regret, adopt the practice of living in the present. Reflect on what has passed, learn from it, and then let it go. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Focus on what you can do now, in this moment, and let go of the things you can no longer change. 13. The burden of expectations from others. We often find ourselves carrying the weight of other people's expectations, parents, friends, or society at large. These expectations dictate how we should behave, who we should become, and even how we should feel. The Stoics teach that other people's expectations are none of our concern. Illustration: imagine wearing a cloak sewn from the judgments and opinions of others. With each step, the cloak grows heavier, pulling you down. You begin to realize that the cloak is not of your making, but you've allowed others to drape it over you. To let go of this burden, you must remove the cloak and walk forward on your own terms. Extended strategy. To free yourself from the expectations of others, practice self-autonomy. Remind yourself daily that you are responsible only for your own actions and choices, not for living up to others' ideals. As Epictetus teaches, seek not the good in external things. Seek it in yourselves. Embrace who you are rather than who others want you to be. 14. Letting go of comparisons. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say. When we compare ourselves to others, we focus on what we lack rather than what we have. The Stoics believe that comparison is a distraction from personal growth, as it focuses our energy on external benchmarks rather than internal progress. Illustration: imagine climbing a mountain, your eyes fixed not on the summit, but on the other climbers around you. You see some ahead, some behind, and instead of focusing on your own journey, you're consumed by how fast or slow others are progressing. In the process, you lose your footing, forgetting that the only race that matters is the one you're running with yourself. Extended strategy. To break free from the trap of comparison, practice gratitude. Each day, reflect on what you have achieved and appreciate your unique journey. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. Focus on your own growth and let others walk their own paths. 15. The fear of change. Change is inevitable, yet many of us resist it, clinging to familiar people and situations even when they no longer serve us. The Stoics embrace change, recognizing it as a natural part of life. To resist change is to resist life itself. Illustration: imagine a tree resisting the changing seasons, refusing to shed its leaves in autumn. The leaves grow brittle, clinging to the branches long past their time, while the other trees around it embrace the cycle of renewal. This resistance only leads to decay, as the tree stunts its own growth by holding on to what is no longer meant to be. Extended strategy. To let go of the fear of change, practice impermanence. Remind yourself that nothing lasts forever, and that change is an opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to welcome all that comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs. Embrace change as part of the natural flow of life, and let go of the fear that holds you back. 16. The need for perfection. Many of us refuse to let go of situations or projects because we want them to be perfect. We endlessly tweak and refine, never satisfied with the result. The Stoics, however, teach that perfection is an illusion and that striving for it can prevent us from moving forward. Illustration. Imagine a painter who never finishes a canvas because she's always finding flaws. She repaints, refines, and reworks, never satisfied, until the canvas becomes a muddled mess. In her pursuit of perfection, she's destroyed the beauty of the original work. Extended strategy. To overcome the need for perfection, practice acceptance of imperfection. Remind yourself that nothing in life is ever truly perfect, and that beauty often lies in imperfection. As Seneca advises, perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. Aim for excellence, not perfection, and learn to let go when something is good enough. 17. Letting go of what others think of you. One of the hardest things to release is our concern for what others think of us. We spend so much time worrying about how we're perceived that we lose sight of what truly matters. The Stoics teach that the opinions of others are irrelevant because they are outside of our control. Illustration. Imagine walking through a crowd, each person whispering opinions about you. Some praise, others criticize. As you listen to each voice, you become overwhelmed, trying to please everyone, but losing yourself in the process. In the end, you realize that their opinions were just noise, and the only voice that matters is your own. Extended strategy. To free yourself from the opinions of others, practice self-reliance. Trust in your own judgment and let go of the need for external validation. As Epictetus reminds us, if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. Focus on being true to yourself and let go of the opinions of others. 18. The desire for control in relationships. In our relationships, we often want to control how others act or feel, believing that if we can just get them to behave in a certain way, everything will be perfect. But the Stoics teach that attempting to control others only leads to frustration. Illustration. Imagine holding a bird in your hand, squeezing it tightly because you fear it will fly away. In your attempt to control it, you end up suffocating it. The same happens in relationships. The more we try to control others, the more we push them away. Extended strategy. To let go of control in relationships, practice emotional detachment. This doesn't mean you stop caring, but rather that you stop trying to control the emotions and actions of others. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let others be who they are, and focus on controlling your own reactions. 19. Letting go of past versions of yourself. We often cling to past versions of ourselves, either out of nostalgia or shame. We either long for the person we once were or regret the mistakes we made. But the Stoics teach that the past is gone, and who we are now is what matters. Illustration. Imagine carrying a portrait of your younger self, constantly comparing who you are now to who you were then. You either romanticize that version of yourself or berate it, but either way, you are stuck in the past. The more you focus on that old portrait, the more you miss out on who you've become. Extended strategy. To let go of past versions of yourself, practice self-compassion. Acknowledge that you are constantly evolving and that who you were in the past was part of that journey. As Epictetus advises, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Live in the present and focus on being the best version of yourself today. 20. Letting go of possessions. We often attach our happiness to material possessions, believing that they define our success or worth. The Stoics, however, teach that possessions are fleeting and that true happiness comes from within. Illustration. Imagine building a sandcastle, proud of its intricate design. But as the tide comes in, the waves slowly erode it away. You scramble to protect it, but eventually the castle crumbles. The same happens with material possessions. No matter how much we accumulate, they are impermanent, and clinging to them only brings suffering. Extended strategy. To let go of possessions, practice minimalism. Focus on what truly brings value to your life and let go of the rest. As Seneca advises, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Simplify your life and find contentment in the things that truly matter. 21. Letting go of old grudges. Grudges are like poison that we drink, expecting the other person to suffer. The Stoics teach that holding on to grudges only harms ourselves, and that forgiveness is the key to peace. Illustration. Imagine Imagine carrying a bag of stones, each one representing a grudge you hold against someone. With each step, the bag grows heavier, but you refuse to put it down, believing that holding on to it gives you power. In reality, the only person you're hurting is yourself. Extended strategy. To let go of grudges, practice forgiveness. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Release the grudge, not for the sake of the other person, but for your own peace of mind. 22. The fear of failure. Many of us refuse to let go of certain situations because we fear failure. We believe that if we let go, we will have failed. But the Stoics teach that failure is a part of life, and that true strength comes from how we respond to it. Illustration. Imagine climbing a mountain, but every time you slip or stumble, you give up, believing that the fall means you've failed. In reality, the fall is just part of the journey, and each time you get back up, you grow stronger. Extended strategy. To overcome the fear of failure, practice resilience. Embrace failure as a learning opportunity and remind yourself that every setback is a chance to grow. As Seneca advises, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Don't fear failure, use it as a stepping stone to success. 23. Letting go of the past. We often find ourselves trapped in the past, reliving old memories, both good and bad. The Stoics teach that the past is gone and that clinging to it only prevents us from living fully in the present. Illustration. Imagine standing on the shore, watching the waves roll in. You try to catch the waves, to hold on to them, but they slip through your fingers. The past is like those waves. No matter how much we wish to hold on to it, it is gone, and all we have is the present moment. Extended strategy. To let go of the past, practice mindfulness. Focus on the present moment and remind yourself that the past is beyond your control. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Choose to live in the now and let go of the past. 4. Letting go of regret. Regret is a heavy burden that keeps us tied to the mistakes of the past. The Stoics teach that regret is futile, as it cannot change what has already happened. Illustration. Imagine carrying a backpack full of rocks, each one representing a regret from your past. With each step, the backpack grows heavier, but you refuse to put it down. The weight of regret only slows you down, preventing you from moving forward. Extended strategy. To let go of regret, practice self-forgiveness. Acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them, and then let them go. As Epictetus advises, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. 25. Letting go of fear. Fear is often the root cause of our inability to let go. We fear the unknown, we fear change, and we fear being alone. The Stoics teach that fear is an illusion and that courage is the key to overcoming it. Illustration. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest, afraid to enter because you cannot see what lies ahead. But as you step forward, the path becomes clearer, and you realize that the fear was only in your mind. Extended strategy. To let go of fear, practice courage. Remind yourself that fear is a natural part of life, but it does not have to control you. As Seneca advises, he who is brave is free. Face your fears head on, and you will find the strength to let go of what no longer serves you. 26. Letting go of past successes. Just as we can become trapped by our failures, we reminisce about the good old days and use those past achievements as benchmarks for our future. But the Stoics teach that clinging to past successes limits our growth, as it prevents us from pursuing new challenges. Imagine a runner who won a race years ago but refuses to run again, afraid that future races might not bring the same glory. They sit on the sidelines, replaying the victory in their mind. But in doing so, they miss out on new opportunities to grow as an athlete. Recognize that while past victories are important, they are not the final chapter of your story. As Marcus Aurelius advises, the act of dying is one of the acts of life. 27. The need to be right. The desire to always be right can be a major obstacle to personal growth and relationships. When we cling to our opinions, we close ourselves off to new ideas and perspectives. The Stoics teach that the need to be right is a form of arrogance, and that true wisdom comes from the ability to listen and learn from others. Illustration. Imagine two people arguing over the color of the sky. One insists it's blue, while the other claims it's gray. Both are so determined to be right that they miss the beauty of the sunset happening right before their eyes. In the pursuit of proving themselves, they've lost sight of what truly matters. Extended strategy. To let go of the need to be right. Practice intellectual humility. Acknowledge that you don't know everything and that there's always more to learn. As Epictetus reminds us, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Be open to other perspectives, and you'll find that letting go of the need to be right leads to greater understanding and peace. At 28, the fear of rejection. Many of us cling to relationships or situations out of fear of rejection. We fear that if we let go, we'll be abandoned or left behind. But the Stoics teach that rejection is a part of life, and that it is not something to be feared. Illustration. Imagine planting seeds in a garden, but instead of letting them grow on their own, you anxiously hover over them, fearing they won't sprout. In your worry, you forget that not every seed will grow, and that's okay. Rejection is much the same. Not every opportunity or relationship will flourish, but that doesn't diminish your worth. Extended strategy. To let go of the fear of rejection, practice emotional resilience. Understand that rejection is not a reflection of your value, but simply a part of life's natural ebb and flow. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Embrace rejection as a learning experience and use it as fuel for personal growth. 29. Letting go of toxic relationships. Toxic relationships drain our energy, diminish our self-worth, and keep us from reaching our full potential. Yet, many of us find it difficult to let go because we've invested time, emotions, or even our identity in these relationships. The Stoics teach that relationships should be mutually beneficial, and that letting go of toxic ones is an act of self-care. Illustration. Imagine carrying a bucket full of water with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you add, it leaks out, leaving the bucket empty. A toxic relationship is much like that bucket. It drains you, no matter how much you give. Extended strategy. To let go of toxic relationships, practice self-respect. Recognize that you deserve to be surrounded by people who uplift and support you. As Epictetus advises, attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Don't be afraid to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you, and prioritize your own well-being. Conclusion. The Stoic path to freedom. Letting go is an act of courage. It's not about giving up or abandoning what you care about. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains that bind you to what no longer serves you. By letting go, we reclaim our energy, our focus, and our peace of mind. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. We can choose to let go, to release our attachment to the past, and to move forward with strength and resilience. As you walk this path of letting go, remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. By letting go, you create space for inner harmony, for growth, and for the peace that comes from living in alignment with the natural flow of life. So, take a deep breath, let go of the past, embrace the present, and trust in the future. The Stoic path is not easy, but it is the path to true freedom,